Communicating in risk circumstances, like coronavirus epidemic, requires for us to remember three communication principles. The first one is we have to pay attention to objective indicators, but for leaders, it's not enough to consider only objective information. We need to give a lot of information to perceptions. Perceptions create problems. Perceptions create crisis. So we will be able to handle a situation like this, not only looking at numbers, but looking at our people, our stakeholders, understanding them and addressing them in the way they want. Our efforts shouldn't be dedicated to change public perceptions. Our main effort should be to change the risks perceptions are based on. Consider your main priority communicating with your internal stakeholders. Of course, we have to be consistent and talk with the same message to every single stakeholder. Either be a public authority, clients and consumers, partners, local communities, but the first stakeholder should be always the internal stakeholders. Also because they will become the main source of information of what the company is doing. There are a few guidelines to communicate in risk situations. Risks are not taken the same way by everybody. So we have to understand that they depend on age, on education, on experience. So a good thing to do in a risk situation is to adapt to your audience, to understand the audience and make sure they are connecting. Another recommendation to communicate in a risk situation is to understand that risks bring fears. And fear is a very strong emotion. So the more emotional people get, the less they will listen to us. If we take an approach of addressing any risk from a scientific point of view, they will not listen to us. So my recommendation would be to be really empathetic, which means listen a lot. Do not react to strong emotions or strong reactions to people, and be aware that the more you are calm, the calmer the audience will be. Another element is to understand the risk. Risks are always linked to two things. The first one is familiarity and the second one is control. We are not afraid of familiar things, even if they are really, really dangerous. And the risk depends on how much we control that activity. So a recommendation would be to implement anything that the audience will think they control the issue. In a risk situation, the best communication channels are always dialogue, conversations. This is why when we are facing a risk, we have to make sure not that we are talking, but we are listening. We need to create channels or platforms in which people can bring over some elements, some new facts, so it's more a conversation than a top-down teaching. There is something that never works, which is silence. What we have to do in such a circumstance is to flow with information to our stakeholders. When people don't listen to the company, they are afraid of missing something. This is why it's so important updates, being really proactive, repeating the same message as many times as needed, and make sure we are communicating properly because people think we are giving them enough information. The core of any communication during a risk situation is building trust. Why? Because people know that companies and governments have lied to them. They may trust other sources more than the top management. So we have to build trust. And how we do that? Telling always the truth, never lie to anybody, and to anticipate questions. Preparation is the key element to build trust and not to lie ever. In risk situations, we have to make sure we talk about our expertise. The risk here is that top management speaks about things they don't know or they don't understand. So, for company leaders, they have to bring experts to the table and they talk only about what they know. And another best practice in communicating in a risk situation is to make sure you understand that we are in a fluid situation. So don't be overconfident. Being overconfident makes intelligent people panic.